You're a Dark Lord. You've been fighting for years to take over the human world. And one by one, you're watching your fellow Dark Lords go down in defeat. The goddess that you have been following all this time has gone down in defeat. And so you say to yourself, what do I do? Well, the goddess before she passed told you in 1,000 years she would return. And so you decide you're going to use all your magic to resurrect yourself in 1,000 years so you can rejoin the goddess and begin again. All that time passes and you're reincarnated as a 10-year-old boy. And not only that, but the world's gone to hell. Hello everybody and welcome to my review of volume number 1 of Yu Shimizu's light novel series, The Demon Swordmaster of Excalibur Academy. This one with artwork by Asagi Tosaka. It's released officially in English by Yen On with a translation by Roman Lempert. If you want to pick up your own copy of this one, I'll have links in the description down below. And if this book sounds like it's up your alley, stick around till later in the video. I'll have a couple of other suggestions of light novels you might want to check out. So as I said, this one focuses on main character Leonis, who is a Dark Lord, who in the dying days of the campaign decides to reincarnate in 1,000 years. And when he does so, he finds out that the world has really gotten wrecked. Apparently, over 60 years ago, these creatures came out of nowhere called voids. And they're similar in ways to mythic and powerful creatures from Leonis's time. But what Leonis finds out is even more shocking, is that no one remembers what happened 1,000 years ago. It's as if that entire history has been erased. Even these creatures don't exist anymore other than as voids. The whole world has changed and humanity has been forced to live in these walled battlefield type settlements. It's all pretty overwhelming to him, and of course he has absolutely no idea where he might even begin to find the goddess of rebellion that he wishes to once again follow. And so he decides to tag along with a group of girls who have been sent from one of these walled cities in order to find out what exactly is going on. And along the way, he's going to find that, well, sometimes even if history's forgotten, it still can come back to bite you in the butt. Now, first off, I'm going to say this. I am a complete sucker for this kind of a story. First of all, it's a fantasy. Second of all, there's lots of action. Third of all, it deals with a character who knows how the world used to be, is now in the world how it is, and is trying to figure out all the mysteries and reasons that the world has changed. I'm a big sucker for those things, and this book checks all of those boxes, and it does it pretty capably. Yu Shimizu is actually an author of several light novels, but most notably Blade Dance of the Elementalers, which is a series that went on for 20 volumes and had a manga and anime adaptation. So you're in the hands of a light novel author who is not new by any means and knows quite well how to structure a series right from the start so that they have something to build on. And that is definitely something that happens in this first book. There is some really strong world building. As I said, right out of the gate when Leonis wakes up from his slumber for 1,000 years, we're pretty much thrown head first into a life or death situation battle against these creatures, the voids. It immediately sets up the status of the world. We find out that magic operates in a very different way in this current world than it did when Leonis was first alive as a Dark Lord. We find all of these things out in a matter of moments and filled with action, and so the author does this great job of the whole showing you instead of telling you. And of course then Leonis follows along with these girls that have rescued him back to Excalibur Academy, which is set within this, basically these massive towns that are mobile apparently, and are essentially reinforced, full of armaments and weapons, and have these academies that are meant to train students who have aptitude with magic. Although in this case, what they call them is they are magic swords. Swords, they call them swords, but they can take a ton of different forms and exhibit quite a number of powers. So it's really kind of solid right from the start. We have this really set up world. The world building is there right away. The magic system is kind of cool right out of the gate. I wouldn't say it's super original, but it certainly fits with the world, and again, is a new layer of mystery and intrigue to it, because you're like, how did magic go from what Leonis did 1,000 years ago to these swords? And of course, there is also the setup of all the various characters that we're going to be following. And again, Shimizu does a very good job of giving all of these characters a very distinct set of backstory and or personal characteristics that immediately keeps them locked in your own head. Leonis, obviously the main character, but he also has a fairly intricate backstory, one that gives far more weight and justification and interest to his role as a Dark Lord and why he would be following this goddess of rebellion. In fact, even the goddess of rebellion herself, even though we don't find out too much about her, she is kind of an interesting figure that you start wondering just why she did what she did and why she was trying to sort of flip the world order onto its head. The main female character, Riselia, which is on the front cover, so you know automatically she's best girl and main love interest. Although I don't know how that's going to work, seeing as how he's supposedly 10 and she's like 14 or so. That's I mean, you know, when you're in your 20s or 30s, that's not that weird of an age gap, but it's kind of strange when you're, you know, prepubescent or teenagers. Anyway, she is obviously the person who first finds Leo. She first thinks that he is just a 10-year-old who has been abducted for some reason by the Voids. She is that big sister character, right? The one who will jump into the jaws of death just so that no one else dies kind of thing. Of course, she has that tragic backstory that backs the whole thing up. And you know, one of the things that happens with this book that slightly detracts from it is that it does have a number of light novel cliches. For instance, the big sister type also volunteers at an orphanage. That never ever happens in light novels. But of course, it does really cement exactly who she is as a person, and that she wasn't just like Leo himself. Her way of treating him wasn't like an outlier kind of thing, like it is who she is. On top of that, there's basically three other main characters. We have Regina, who is Riselia's maid. She's seems to take great fun in kind of poking fun at Leo, particularly by sort of making suggestive comments to him. We have Sakuya, who is quite kind of just chill and everything else, but when she gets into the middle of a battle, she is a berserker, completely kind of losing track of anything other than killing voids. She also has a gambling problem. And then we have Alfine, who is sort of the mom to the team. She is the one who is that responsible and steady character, but also kind of has her own share of bad backstory. As I said, all of these character elements, they are kind of cliche-ish, but at the same time, they blend really well into the world building, and they make it so that all of the characters, you very quickly have them locked in your head, who they are and what they are like. Now again, the book isn't perfect. It does have some cliches to it, not just with the characters, but you know, there's the douchebag character that you know he's gonna get his ass beat at some point. There is the, well, I said the orphanage thing already. You know, those are the kind of things that every once in a while you're just like, yep, definitely a light novel, checking a few light novel boxes. But again, capably done, not just, you know, roughshod slapped in there for the sake of checking the box, but fitting in overall with the feel and of the world and kind of giving you a little bit more meat to the bones of this story. All that said, there were two things that kind of took me out of the book a little bit. The first one was Riselia's complete naivety about a 10-year-old boy. Now, obviously, we, the reader, know that Leo is older than 10 years old, but even if he was 10 years old, I guarantee you that the average 10-year-old male is gonna have some less than pure thoughts if a really cute 14-year-old girl walks naked into the bath with him. I'm just saying. It's kind of strange that most of the other characters seem to have the same idea, that because he's 10, which like is only about 4 years younger, which really isn't that big a gap, but they just seem to think he's a kid and so he can't be capable of really bad, naughty things. Even Regina, who, you know, tempts him with things like lifting her skirt just a little bit or mentioning, would you want to touch my boobs? It's almost a sexual harassment now that I say it like that. But, you know, even her teasing doesn't seem to be that she thinks he'll sincerely take her up on it. She just enjoys to see him flustered and confused by it. But still, it just seemed a little unbelievable. The other thing that took me out of this whole thing was boobs. Boobs, boobs, opie, tetais, tatas, like, oh my god, there was so much talk about breasts in this book. And like, you know what? Don't get me wrong. If you set up your main character as a pervy, breast-obsessed teenager, like, say, you know, we have in High School DxD, I am not going to be surprised. I know right from step one, there's going to be boobs. There's going to be talk about boobs. There's going to be obsessing about boobs. The main character's going to freak out every time breasts come anywhere near him. I get it. But when you have a Dark Lord who nearly toppled the world, who's waited to be resurrected to rejoin a goddess of rebellion to conquer the world once more, even though he's been reincarnated into a 10-year-old human body, I don't think he's going to obsess about breasts so much. Like, he has to notice the size of chest of every female character he meets. Whenever they come too close to him, like, you know, he has to mention that they press against him when he's riding on a bike with Riselia. He has to, you know what I mean? Like, when she walks into the bath and starts bathing him, well, okay, I mean, I can't help he would notice. But you know what I mean? Like, it just seemed kind of weird that this Dark Lord who's waited 1,000 years to take over humanity is completely flustered by breasts. It just didn't seem to quite fit. And quite honestly, was entirely unnecessary. There were enough little fan servicey bits between Regina's suggestive comments, between Riselia being completely clueless and walking in on him half naked and stuff. Like, there was enough fan servicey bits. We really didn't need the boobs. Like I said, you know what? It just didn't work with the character to me. It just seemed to kind of take me out of that whole thing. I thought to myself, like, 10-year-old body or not, like, this dude's got bigger things on his brain. He shouldn't be this obsessed with boobs, like, or distracted by them. That was just the one thing that I just really, again, it just took me out of the book a bit. You know, like, you'd be reading, you'd be like, oh, this is cool, okay, yeah, I'm into this. Oh, he's talking about breasts again. You know, it was like that. So, but again, it wasn't a deal breaker though, you know, like, I think that's probably when you talk about the strength of the world building, when you talk about the strength of the characters and, you know, the growing relationships between the characters and the mysteries about the world and why is the world the way it is. And eventually you get some suggestion of the origin of voids, which is another kind of cool idea. When all of these things are going on, I'm engaged. I like the book. It's just like, you know, you eye roll because you're like, it's boobs again. That's all. You know, some of you may not give a darn about that kind of thing. You might welcome the mention of boobs. I don't know. But just for me, it was a little too much. And as I said, there was still more than enough fan servicey moments in the book that it really didn't need it. That's just my takeaway. In any case, the Demon Swordmaster of Excalibur Academy. Overall, pretty good book. Like I said, I'm a real sucker for the whole setup, so automatically it's kind of up my alley, and I'll probably forgive a few things even more than another person. Or the characters are well written, the action sequences are well done, the pacing, it's a very steady and even pace, very well executed action sequences that you could actually follow, that didn't go all over the darn place or were nonsensical. Overall, that kind of stuff, pretty solid, which overall made me really enjoy the book, and I found it to be very much a page turner that I could just burn through very easily. A couple of eye-rolling things that I just kind of took me out of it, suspended my disbelief for a little while, but overall, like I said, enough good stuff that I could forgive them. In this video, I want to say a special thanks to Mitchell Von Regen, Kyle Block, Yun, and Renzaz for their support on Patreon, as well as the support of all of my patrons who help me keep the channel running, as well as supporting my other projects like the Light Novel Podcast and EnglishLightNovels.com. Now, if the Demon Swordmaster of Excalibur Academy sounds up your alley, a couple of other titles you might want to check. First of all, if you like the artwork on this one, which I should have probably talked about, the artwork's actually really good on this one. Gone from my head. But anyway, the artwork on this one is quite good. And so if you like the artwork on this one, you might want to also check out The Dirty Way to Destroy the Goddess's Heroes. That's an isekai title about a guy who is actually summoned by the Demon Lord, because the Demon Lord just wants to peacefully get some good food for his daughter, and the heroes, just because he's on human turf, are like, we're gonna kill you, and keep on coming after him, no matter how many times he kills them. And so he summons a hero of his own to get rid of them. It's kind of a cute, quirky series. I like the first volume of this one, but like I said, it's actually the same artist as the one Excalibur Academy, so you might want to check it out even for the artwork, but it's also worth a read. Now, if you want one that's a little bit more storyline close to this, we have The Greatest Demon Lord is Reborn as a typical nobody. This one actually sounds a little bit like the Misfit of Demon Academy, which was most popularized by the recent anime. It is a light novel series, but has yet to be licensed. But the manga you can pick up from Square Enix. Anyway, all that aside, the typical nobody, the Demon King is Reborn. It is your basic setup of the Demon King is bored because he is so powerful. There's nothing to do, man. Nothing. The life is boring as the Demon King when you're OP. So he decides that he's just going to end his self and that he is going to reincarnate himself, but he is going to set his magic levels at a really average level so that life is challenging and he can be excited and thrilled by having to push himself. Only thing he doesn't count on is that by the time he reincarnates, magic's gone to crap and everybody's way weaker even than what his weakened state is. And so he's still stupid OP and has to deal with the headaches and boredom of just, being too good. Now, if you're looking for something that's more along the lines of the story of Excalibur Academy, you might want to check out A Wild Last Boss Appeared. Now, yes, it is quite a bit different, but it does deal with the whole coming to a world in a future state and figuring out just what the heck happened. It's an isekai series about a gamer who plays this ridiculously overpowered character, so overpowered that there is actually an event in-game to take him down. Well, he is defeated, but then finds himself reincarnated into the world of the game, but hundreds of years later as his character. And he sees that the world is incredibly different. And so he has to set off on this journey to figure out what the world is like, why he's there, and also deal with all of the bad stuff that has happened as a result of his defeat back during the game event. So if you're looking for that kind of world's changed, why is it changed type of storyline, that might be one to check out as well. So for my next review, I decided to stick with fantasy and action, and in this one, gore, violence, grim, dark horror. and Yuri. I'll never get tired of that combination of stuff. Anyway, I'm going to be reading volume number 1 of Roll Over and Die. I will fight for an ordinary life with my love and cursed sword. That'll be my next review. In the meantime, thanks for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.